are back from the Super Bowl that is Super Bowl weekend for us. The Purge. It is our right to purge in Portland. We purged a lot. Didn't we, Ian?
What did we purge?
We purged our souls of bad gaming experiences. We had a lot of fun.
Oh, we had a great time.
And welcome to the CU podcast. By the
yes,
way.
hello. Hi, we're here.
For Tuesday, October 23rd.
I didn't do a whole lot of
2018.
purging. I did a lot of consuming of foods.
Well, yes, we did that.
Lots of delicious foods.
That's Ian Ferguson.
I'm here.
I'm Pat Contry.
That's Pat.
We got a lot coming up to talk about. We'll be talking about the Intellivision Amico, the Analog Mega SG. This all hit around Portland. It's like this is our E3 around October. It seems like that, right?
It is.
The CollectorVision Phoenix FPGA ColecoVision console Kickstarter.
Wow.
At Games Blast controversy, other stuff, and Q&A. So Ian, we had the Purge. I'm just saying because USA has a Purge show on right now. It's actually pretty good for purging. You know, I'm not into that whole series, but anyway, it's all right to purge it once a year at Portland.
But it makes it sound like
we're not killing anyone,
I feel like this is a stretch. We're not killing people. I mean, I'm killing. It was a very good time though. Vonnie and I went up on Wednesday. We took a couple extra days just to try to kind of unwind. We just kind of slept and relaxed and had dinner. Thursday, people started to come up, hung out with Norm and Rue. You came up on Friday. You set up. You know, you were selling some books.
I sold some NES guidebooks. Yes,
Friday.
We sold the new My Man CU podcast shirts.
Yep, those were popular.
We sold about half the ones we brought there, and we'll have a Teespring campaign going for you maybe next week or so if Pat gets off his butt and does it. But it's Ian. I'll put the image here so you guys get. It's Ian as Aquaman and Pat as Cyborg recreating that famous scene from Justice League.
Yes,
right, ain't over yet.
And that famous moment on the CU podcast. So that was a good time. I had a panel, and thanks to Kinsey Burke for having me on that panel with her and Reggie. That was a great panel about game collecting when you're broke AF, when you're broke as fuck. That was a fun panel. And then you and I had what I would consider a very successful CU podcast panel.
Yeah, it was about 150 people there.
We filled the room. I mean, whatever the room capacity is. And then you had your panels. You did one for Not For Resale,
the documentary I'm executive producing that we're probably going to change the name at some point for that, and that went over well. We showed a few clips from that, and then Sunday was the good old Pat Contry, Pat the NES Punk, Play the Punk Challenge panel, which is now a tradition. It's like my 8th time doing it at PRGE, and that was a lot of fun as well. So in terms of, we always like to, it's like almost like the State of the Union address about when we come back from Portland about what's going on with the scene. What are we seeing? What's the vibe out there? I know Ian said last year he felt some change happened when you said that like no one was buying Earthbound Super Nintendo cards. You said I saw a few and no one bought them. This year, the theme to me was, you saw things, this is what I saw. I saw from my own eyes, and from people telling me, I saw 3 entire collections being sold. At the Nintendo Age booth, there was a huge complete in box NES set. Not all of them were out there, but there was hundreds of boxed NES games out there. Maybe you want to say 300, 400, something in that range, maybe a little more. And there were some ones that were like coveted that I saw that weren't gone right away. It wasn't the feeding frenzy that would happen, early Saturday. So the biggest one that stood out to me that I saw Base Load 4 out there, complete in box for $40. That's a rare game. That is not an easy to find game. And it was only $40. And that's what the cartridge cost for that game about, if I check a certain app. But it was still there in the afternoon. I was like, wow. I mean, if I was still in my craze of buying it, I probably should have bought that, because that's probably worth at least double that or more. And, like I said, you don't find it. I would have bought it if I didn't have the manual. Just to get the manual, it would have been worth it. But I saw that. So that was a collection being sold. Another vendor said on the slide, we're selling off, a collection of someone. It was a variety of things. It wasn't just one thing. And then our pal Charles, who sells there every year, tall glass of water, Mr. Handheld. I bought literally probably 60 handhelds off him the past 8 years. Ian's gotten some stuff off him. He's deciding he's gonna settle down somewhere, retire, and he needs to downsize the collection, and not just downsize. He's getting rid of everything within the next few years. So he's getting rid of stuff. He's a guy probably about 50, early 50s, and he's not too old. Very, very nice guy, and he's selling out his stuff, and he has a ton of like stuff that APF MP1000. He has a bunch of handheld stuff which he's gotten rid of the past few years. I helped him do that. All the Tiger LCDs I bought, and I think I even got a couple things throughout the years from him. And yeah, so that wasn't like everyone was getting rid of everything, but when you see that, it's like, okay, there's a little something going on here. And I jokingly said to our pal Chris Kohler, because he was at Charles's booth on Friday, I said, "Uh-oh, this is a foreboding, Chris." Chris like, "No, Pat, it doesn't mean anything. The guy's retiring. It doesn't mean anything." And Ian says to me a day or two later, he's like, "Well, other people will be retiring at some point, and collections will be gone. It's just about the timing of when that's going to happen, when people decide to get out." And you usually see this at Portland. Gwyndian on Nintendo Age, the last year, he wasn't there this year, but last 2 years, he's the guy that had all the really cool like
all the
NWC
paperwork and
all
stuff like that,
all the test carts, all the hard to find stuff. I got a Game Action Replay in the box from him last year, so he already got rid of his stuff. He already got out probably most of his stuff. He got the documentation. I think Frank bought some stuff from him the past couple of years. So it's like I said, it's not a total wave of this happening right now, but it is happening as people get into we'll just say the golden years of their of their collecting. The only thing I'm going to comment on, I saw, by the way, MP1000, I saw multiple APF MP1000s. I just thought that was strange to see multiple of those. And yes, you're going to see the more esoteric stuff in Portland, but to see multiple of those for sale, and no one wants those, by the way, no one buys those. It's a hard to find system, but no one cares about it. And I you see cool stuff, like a guy had all the TI computer stuff. You see that guy? He liked the hard to find modem and stuff like. Oh, I'm like, this stuff is really freaking cool. There's no one interested in buying it, but it's cool to see that, to have someone curate that. So you see the cool experiences there at Portland. The other thing I wanted to say is that I saw. I personally, Ian, I think you're going to talk about, you saw some Sega Saturn stuff
yes.
sell. I didn't see the Super Nintendo stuff selling. I came back to a few vendors and looked at, the uncommon and rare stuff in the case. And there was stuff like Earthbound, no one bought. Adventures of Batman and Robin, no one bought. Like the $60 to $150 games, like they were just sitting there. I just didn't see it move. I'm not saying none of it didn't, none of it moved. Some of it did, but I was just seeing like chunks of that stuff. You tell me about the Musha.
So as far as, I'll get to the Musha.
Okay.
So from what I saw, obviously I saw some people getting rid of stuff. There was the people retiring. I don't know that that's as foreboding, maybe as you will think.
Well, I was saying that as a joke at the time.
I'm sure. Yeah, I mean, we had the, Gwyndian did the retiring last year. Charles was retiring this year.
Retiring the collection.
I mean, what would be more alarming is if everyone from every generation started to retire stuff. But we're seeing, and this is kind of what I'm seeing lots of people, like you mentioned the Saturn. I was seeing Saturn stuff move. I was seeing, that sort of generation. I was still seeing N64 stuff move, Saturn stuff move. It seemed like PlayStation stuff was moving, and I think Dreamcast. Maybe not so much regular PlayStation. Regular PlayStation seemed to be a thing that people started collecting, I don't know, earlier than most systems. Like, it didn't wait necessarily for its time,
Sure.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, people were collecting PlayStation as far back as when I first started working at Luna. So when people were getting into Nintendo, people were already collecting PlayStation because it has all those great RPGs and stuff. So PlayStation kind of, for whatever reason, exists, I think, outside of that normal timeline of when systems become popular based on generation.
Yeah, but I would say it would probably be mainly the RPGs, but yeah, that's what people in the mid 2000s were starting to get and have value. Like Final Fantasy VII had value
for a while,
like way before you would expect to be like, wow, like this isn't that old and people want.
Yeah,
this
it went
game.
from an $8 game to a $60 game for like a year to 2 years, and then dropped back down. But there were some things that I saw sit around, like Pat said. There was a Musha there.
I wish you told me about this, by the way.
I swear it was complete. Maybe it was missing its manual, though, because it was in the case for $250, and on a Sunday at $250, maybe the price had been dropped at that point in hopes to move it. I don't know. Maybe I'm misremembering it, and it didn't have its manual but it definitely was $250, and $250 for a Musha
It's cheap.
on any given day is pretty damn cheap. And the fact that didn't sell was strange.
If you told me, I would have tried like a $200 offers to see if they would have bit, because I don't have it, just for the hell of it, to get a deal.
That's strange, one, because it's, I think it's a little overrated, but it is a good shooter. It's a damn good shooter. I don't think it's the be-all, end-all. But, shooters are popular almost always, regardless of what, system happens to be in vogue at the moment.
Sure.
And, it's one of the top-tier Genesis titles usually for collectors. So to not see that move made me raise an eyebrow.
Sure, that makes sense.
And what the fuck was I going to say about it? I just dropped one of my points. Anyways, so that was strange for me to see.
I saw I didn't see the Sunday Frenzy that I've seen in past years, maybe just because the mood has changed with that, where it's like you see the tables had like will slash the prices and do the giveaways, stuff like that. Didn't see that happening this year. I'm not saying maybe because vendors didn't want to do that. I'm sure vendors made out like bandits still.
The vendors I talked to all said they did very well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the reason why my personal reason for thinking there wasn't as big of a frenzy on Sunday is because
Saturday was the frenzy.
Saturday was insane from what I could see. And honestly, walking around Sunday, there was nothing to be frenzied over. A lot of the vendors that would normally have stuff to sell, it didn't look like there was any need for them to slash prices, or like for instance, Pink Gorilla had like nothing left at their booth. They had a shitload of stuff on Saturday. I saw a lot of vendors that normally have a lot of stuff at their booths had almost no stock on Sunday. So I can only assume, hopefully, that means they did well. I do feel like personally, and I don't know if there's a good way to verify it, but I'd like to know. I feel like just looking around, it did seem like whatever they were buying, and it might not have been, the retro stuff, the or NES, probably certainly not the computer stuff, etc. Mm-hmm. But it did seem like I saw more people buying and more people walking around with stuff this year than I did last year. Last year definitely felt far more different. If I look at the 4 or 5 PRGs that I've done, mm-hmm. Last year felt the most different.
So maybe the transition from last year, where now you said people are buying these slightly newer systems from the 90s versus the 80s.
Yeah, maybe last year the hive mind didn't know what the hell to do, but this year maybe people have kind of transitioned more to something else. But
those are more limited markets when you're talking about Saturn collecting. You're talking about higher price points, less games to go around. This could be sort of just, this is the one place you can realize you can pick up those games, like at least in person, a lot of those like hard to find RPGs, and you know what I'm saying?
If it brings people,
you see a Snatcher out there? I didn't see a Snatcher.
No, and I did see a couple titles on the Saturn in like triplicate.
Yeah,
it is. I saw like 4 copies of Shining in the Holy Ark, which is great, which means that's probably being overpriced right now. Mm-hmm. But I did see a lot of like the smaller Saturn titles moving. That's the shit that Vonnie lives for too. I love her dearly. She is like the #1 Saturn collector of low grade titles.
The low rent ones.
Yeah, she loves them.
I'll probably end up selling my stuff to her then next year. I saw maybe 3 vendors with TurboGrafx stuff, mostly nothing extremely rare, nothing extremely excitable, middle of the road stuff. No magical chases this year like prior years, nothing like no Hero Tonmas, no Super Air Zonks, which I need a Super Air Zonk, none of that. There was a few people with imports. There was obviously our pal Steve Lynn was selling stuff. There was another importer I saw. Our buddy Carlson was not there this year. I know he's busy with school. And the weird thing about it, I missed booths. There was booths that I wanted to like say hi to that my mind was blanked and I just didn't see certain booths. I must have walked past them multiple times. It was weird.
And that's what that reminded me. That's what I wanted to say when I was finishing up that Musha bit. Was the only other thing I could think of is Portland is so big. And everything is so spread out, and the way this person's booth was set up, the Musha was in such a place where it is entirely possible that no one saw it. 100% entirely possible. Yeah. Because it wasn't like it was in a case, but it was like in a case with a couple other odd rarities, and I think
Okay.
there's like a couple like other like loose carts in there, but then I think there's also
Wow.
like a Super Nintendo game, and it was like it was on a side like where you had to go through like a narrow walkway. It was. I love Portland, but it's big, and if your booth isn't
intimidating.
set up, if
Yeah.
your booth isn't set up like perfectly for maximum coverage of that stuff, you might just not be selling stuff because no one's seeing it.
So I spent only $30 this year on stuff. I bought there in the little swap meet runoff area.
I didn't even see that. I mean, I saw it, but I didn't
that
go in
there,
there.
there was a little side room
Yeah,
with about 10 extra vendors about.
Yeah.
One's
PRGE swap area.
one was from San Diego. One had some PC Engine stuff. There was a guy that had computer stuff, Coco stuff, which I know nothing about. I don't
Tandy Coco.
I know nothing about Tandy stuff. I don't know nothing about TRS-80, any of that stuff. But I bought there was an Infocom Sea Stalker TRS-80 version, album version. My sister had the IBM/Tandy, box version. Only $5. I was like, that's a deal and a half for that. And I bought Infidel by Infocom, which I never saw before, but it looked funny. It's a funny name. It has all the feelies. Then I got like a Tandy like Rampage in the blister pack for $5. The car. I was like, that's okay. That's really what I bought. I might have bought like other little things, but it was just sort of like walking around talking to people. I saw the WADA game grading booth.
I wish
talked to
I
them
had
for a while.
seen them. I would have liked to have chatted with them again. They're very nice. But see, that's exactly what I'm talking about with Portland. I didn't see them at all.
So I saw them. I talked to them. They're getting involved with Heritage auctions, which is a pretty big deal because Heritage, they sell everything. They sell comics, they sell coins, they sell cards, baseball cards. So I'd be interested to see if that raises the profile of sealed games to some or not. I
Sealed or graded?
well both sealed graded. Most of the stuff they had is graded. They had 5 NWC cards out, gray ones that were graded. I do disagree with grading NWC cards. I've said why in the past because none of them are ever pristine mint. You couldn't get one, so what's the point of doing that? But whatever. I see they're grading these things. So they had a bunch laid out, which is funny. And then of course I saw all the 3 custom arcade carts. I got the guy's card, really nice guy. The DuckTales arcade.
Oh, the
excuse
machines,
cab.
yeah.
The DuckTales arcade cab, the Legend of Zelda one. And then also the Mega Man one, and they're beautiful. This guy also, he's only made a few of them. He makes them all by hand.
Yeah.
They're not even CNC routed. He made a Oregon Trail wooden by hand
What?
cabinet.
Was that there?
It wasn't there. I got the guy's card. I showed you the picture. You didn't see it.
Oh, yeah.
It was not there. So this guy does these as art pieces. Like, so the NES one has a real TV monitor, takes out the casing of it, and mounts it like an arcade monitor. Then puts an NES in the bottom and zip ties it so it doesn't move. So he basically runs a multi-card on it, but they're set up like how the NES Donkey Kong like wide body cabinets were, / Play Choice 10. More closer to the Play Choice 10. They're not as wide, but the same sort of control scheme set up there. I told them that if you figure out a way to do like a cheaper Play Choice 10 style of these, where you just sell the cabinets to people like that, like this could be something that NES fans would want to get into, or Super or whatever. And he said, no, that's not a bad idea, but he likes doing them as art pieces. So that was the highlight. And besides, also the NES Museum was insane from the National Video Game
National Video Game History Foundation.
Foundation, not museum.
Yes, they did a fantastic job. Frank, Kelsey, Frank's wife Amanda was involved, and everyone over there. Steve had stuff in there. John Hancock's entire boxed collection was
Video Game
there.
History Foundation, no national.
Oh,
Video Game
History Foundation. Half awake. John Hancock's collection was there.
Yeah, John Hancock brought all his complete and boxed NES games.
Everything they set up
there
was
was
just fantastic.
The NES launch party T-shirt and little poster. Everything, just about everything was there. I contributed little things here and there, like the World of Powers NES books. I had, it was funny. Frank had the entire, like Nintendo, like kid party pack. He had like the cups.
Oh yeah, I saw.
He had the tablecloths. He had like the plates. He didn't have the invitations. I had a pack of the invitations. Serendipitously, I texted him. He's like, oh my god, bring those. It completes the set. So I brought that, and it was a nice history of Nintendo as well. There was a late 60s a Disneyland board game that Nintendo produced that I never saw before. There were so many things either I never saw before or I had heard of but not seen in person. like the T-shirt from the launch party in New York in '85, and then the something I've never seen in person, which is the kiosk Rob, the gigantic Rob.
That thing was awesome.
We've all seen in Toys R Us a version of the one that shows the Nintendo Entertainment System with like the Gyromite pieces and Gyromite Duck Hunt and the Zapper. But to see the giant Rob head was mesmerizing in person. I'd seen that.
I believe Frank said there's only 2 of them.
2 of them that we know of.
Yeah.
Because I know that a guy found 2 of them like 5 years ago, like in a warehouse, and one was brand new.
I think he said there's 2. But I could be wrong. But yeah, there was a lot of work put into that. I was told that breakdown took 6.5 hours. So, thank the people who did this, especially if you were able to get out there and
Once
see
in a
it.
lifetime.
Once in a lifetime.
Probably.
That, I would say definitely, that stuff will never all be under the same roof at the same time again. So that was very special. I had said this to Frank, but I mean, it's worth saying. It was a very cool experience. I consider myself someone who, especially through retail, I've just been burnt out on the NES for so long. And I walked in and, walking along the Nintendo timeline, it was really cool. And as I'm walking around along the Nintendo timeline, there were 2 interesting things that happened that stuck out for me. One was I saw a 13-year-old kid basically taking his mom along and explaining the history of the Nintendo to his mom,
wow,
which was really cool. And I thought that was, I don't know, just oddly apropos. And 2, I found myself getting excited looking at stuff again. A lot of it that I knew about but hadn't seen in person, but that I was like interested in seeing in like 99 and 2000 when I was on the internet. I found myself getting excited about Nintendo stuff again, just seeing it for the first time in maybe a decade.
Yeah.
It was really, really cool, and it brought back some of that, I don't know, that excitement. And
TSR's NES Archive excitement.
Yeah, exactly.
And
that
discovery.
That's that's a Herculean task. And I can tell you the moment it happened. It happened when I looked at the little monitor displaying the test cartridge display screen with that black background and the colorful Nintendo logo thing, and it's got the zooming stars in the back.
Okay.
And something about that display, and it's kind of the same with like the intros for all the black box games. It just screams Nintendo to me.
Sure.
And that reminded me, it's like everything I really loved about Nintendo was all those 3 early years of Nintendo. There was just something very specific about that aesthetic and that style that I liked. And it grabbed me. They did a great job of conveying everything.
They had games to play. They had a red tent Nintendo VS cabinet with Balloon Fight in it, which I didn't know was a double screen vertical, which makes the game so much better. I was like, wow, that's brilliant. That should be on the eShop, or they should put that out. But no, it was a great time. It was fun to see everyone come out there. See Rue come back from the dead. It was nice once a year that he still exists.
I want to make one quick shout out to his name's Mike, doing amazing things with Pinball 2000.
Oh, that's right.
Pinball 2000, if you're unaware, was a brief attempt at bringing pinball back to the masses in 99-2000. They did 2 tables, Revenge from Mars, and the first one was Star Wars Episode 1. It used the CRT TV to project a sort of hologram onto the playfield. Without getting too in-depth in it, this guy is making his own custom kit with it, created a whole new playfield, and using he's doing all sorts of crazy things. I got a chance to play it. Pat did as well. He showed me the inside of the machine. What he's doing with this is incredible. So it's always fun to see the new things that they're doing with old stuff at this convention, whether it's homebrews or doing new stuff with old pinball. That's really some of the that's just what makes Portland great.